Everyone's wondering which detachment is the most brutal, but what about the most cunning? Can Orks win with the forced dispositions they want to play? Let's find out today, you gets. So today on Wall Tactics, we're going to break down the forced dispositions, their values, their combinations, kind of allude to and try to kind of evaluate the missions they will be playing and some of the matchups might look like. Maybe kind of give advice to the people going into the new meta right away, whether you have an event or if you're just a git that just got the Armageddon box and you're trying to get stuck in. So today we got Big Mac David here. Whoa, let's go. So let's get stuck in, you gets. Nice to see you guys in the live chat. Of course, if I miss anything, if you want me to expand on anything, just get stuck in and say it, right? So broke it down so if you gets that have been getting confused, GW's been feeding us the information, very sloppy. Here you go. These are the detachments that want to play purge, reconnaissance, priority assets, disruption, and take and hold. Also, you can see how many points they all cost. To make it simple, there are 3 detachments that are 1 detachment point cost. There are the entire codex generally is 2 points for the detachment cost, and Warhorde exclusively is all 3 of your detachment points, right? Just to summarize it. So David, what are you thinking so far when you're looking at these things? With we're gonna break down all the detachments as well, the new ones that are 1 DP, and then we're gonna circle back around to these. So
yeah, GW made it simple with making the 3 DP detachments the most used detachments in 10th edition.
Yeah, generally, and the fact that you're going to be able to pick how you want to play the mission and it's going to counter your opponents or complement your opponents in some cases is what's going to be interesting. So what I want to do is look at each of these the 3 1DP detachments, go over their synergies, their value, what they actually want to do, and then circle back to that chart, because then we're going to talk about how it completely synergizes and plays the mission with all the other detachments that we already know and love. So starting off with Tactical Brigade, I cut it off a little bit. Sorry, I just noticed I did that. Typically, though, your Storm Boys will get Battle Line. Your Boys, Commandos, and Storm Boys will be able to do actions even if they fell back or advance forward. And then you also have Mork's Cunning, which even though I cut it off, it was the most interesting one, is that you can actually redeploy Ork infantry. Now, it used to be any 3 Ork units. Now it's just Ork infantry, and you can put them into strategic reserves, and then you can get a war boss with infiltrate. That's what it kind of brings for the enhancements. Not necessarily what we're here for. Mork's Cunning is the most interesting. When I'm looking at this detachment, I'm looking at it as an action detachment, right? Because you're taking your small, cheap, quote unquote, even though we haven't seen the point value units, to run out and support those maybe more killy detachments that you're going to want to talk about, whether it's a Bully Boys, a DeHunt, one of the Breaker Wagon Brigades, whatever it's called, right? You're going to actually Dread Mob, for example. Maybe you need to actually run out and get on the objectives and do actions. And then you have slow character options here where you're going to be able to just say, I'm going to make Weird Boys with the boys or alone without the boys and kind of double down on that proficiency. You have the battle line restrictions that we've been hearing about that we don't know about yet, right, David? So for the battle line restrictions, some people are saying we're going to be limited to 4 battle line units instead of the 6. Also, we have the cheap infantry, quote unquote. If people are going to be charged for redundancy on units, that's going to be as a penalty now. That's going to actually impact that.
Right. So your 3rd or 4th unit could be 5, 10 extra points.
Yeah, your second or 3rd of the duplicated unit will, or you're talking about the battle line. Sorry, but for any unit, yes. For any unit, if it's your 2nd or 3rd of that unit, and we don't know about the sizes, right? Because we don't know about the army composition rules yet. So we don't know if we're looking at, well, you're going to pay an extra 30 points if it's a 10-man brick. And if not, then it's for Storm Boys, for example. And if it's a 20-man unit of mob of boys and you bring another one, well, maybe that's an extra additional cost. We don't know that. So it's not a given that you're going to just be able to say, I'm going to take 3 Storm Boy units and just pick Tactical Brigade and be like, that's enough. I figured it out. Right? It might be that each one of these cost extra, and you're going to be like, well, maybe I want a boy instead, so it can complement the fact that I want to purge, or maybe a commando is good enough for me, and I don't really need multiple Storm Boys. It's 1 commando, 1 Storm Boy. Split up the Storm Boys and the boy unit, and then to kind of counteract these possible issues that we're seeing with duplication of cost that has been revealed to us from GW. Then we, of course, we have the 1 CP that we talked about. Your movement, if it falls back, it's eligible to declare a charge. This is only for Storm Boys and Commandos, and to be honest, these units aren't surviving long enough, so it's more just Theory Hammer. When your opponent makes a movement, you can move up to a normal 6. With Boys, Commandos, or Storm Boys, that was engaged. This only has ever applied to me when I'm playing with the Gaz mob sometimes, and some dudes randomly survive, or if I brought double mobs in the old version of Tactical Brigade. So it would be maybe if you bring this with Green Tide, if you bring it with Bully Boys, where Bully Boys wants action monkeys, and you actually might have some mobs of boys on your list, then maybe this might come into play. Otherwise, another just theoretical one. The one that's actually interesting is Dead Sneaky. When your opponent's fight phase is over, you can pick these boys up, the Storm Boy units up, excuse me, our Storm Boys unit, put them in strategic reserves, and come back down to score, right? So overall for this detachment, it's really just think of it as your action monkey detachment. Then we move to the More DACA. Now, More DACA has been changed, of course. Now it's just, hey, we're going to have that you're going to have to get friendly infantry units, have assault, and then they get a sustained 1 on the wall. This is exclusive to infantry, so it's very straightforward, right? This is a very player-friendly detachment supplement, right? Also, this is really going to support any of you that want to play Purge, you know, and you want to just double down on the damage aspects of your list. And you're like, well, I'm already playing Dread Mob. Dread Mob is Purge. Majority of my army is going to be Purge. I'm going to have a lot of Ludas, Flash Gits, Tank Busters. And then I just want to give all them the ability to actually move around and not pay for so many transports, for example. Then this is very clearly going to be very good and synergistic with that. I think this one has the most synergy in the obvious sense, where I'm just everything wants to assault anyways because it goes with the wall when we charge, and it gives everything sustained 1 for the DACA. Now, are you actually going to want to roll out a bunch of boy mob shooting, and you already know that, you know, it's a clock if you're playing on the clock in an event? You know, that's another question, right? How much can I actually pick up all these dice, look at for all these? You're going to be really proficient in that way. But if you're someone like a Green Tide player and you're bringing more DACA, well, then you probably are proficient enough to be doing this. But I've also known that we all struggle with the Green Tide sometimes.
Yeah, anything with AP, though, is definitely worth rolling, because AP is going to have a different impact in this edition. Everything's more killy.
You're up. Yep. And Orks do have a bunch of just random multi-damage shots also. So if you're just getting away with it for random rockets and such, bam, right? You're playing Bully Boys. You don't know what the Mega Knobs, we talking about the other options. War Gear, you're talking about, right? So Mega Knobs.
Yeah, so we could see a difference between the Power Claw or the Twin Kill Saws and
Power Claws, or the custom shooters and combi shooters, whatever, where one's dev and one's just more DACA. There might be a cost disparity here, which might impact what more DACA actually does, and if you actually want to bring it or not for your Bully Boys units. We don't even know if the Big Mech and Mega Armor is going to be a support or is going to be a leader, right? That's another question. You guys can argue. I'm not saying what's what, but there's so much left on the table that we can still look at that people are kind of already overlooking. But because they're overlooking it, is because something like this is very obvious, right? I obviously know this goes with Green Tide. I obviously know it can help my Dread Mob. Very straightforward. Nothing wrong with playing that, especially if you're already familiar with it, because as to the player who are just starting the edition again, and you're going to start going to events right away, if you were playing those armies already, or where you left off playing, then you kind of want to keep doing the same, right? When you already have to consider so much more with War Gear, army duplication, army force disposition, you're like, all right, I'm going to simplify this. We're going to purge it up, right? You're just all DACA. That's what I mean by why it's kind of straightforward and obvious. Then you have the said shiny shooters, which is very compelling, right? A brick of flashy gets, and then you put it in a freebooter detachment, for example. I know you already get sustained. I'm not worried about that. But if you have dead shiny shooters, and then you also are the nearest enemy target, and then you also put a blast on that, right? Because, well, people are like, well, want tactics. People are not going to be taking anything greater than a 12-man unit. I understand that. But if you give each of my flash gets 1 to 2 more shots on top of rapid fire, on top of their additional shot that they're already getting for being close to you, and they already have sustain and lethal built in possibly for that go turn, and they're heavy, so I might not even have to move too much if I set myself up correctly. Oh, Come on now, right? And you don't know if I'm in freebooters, then maybe I can declare the law in this unit or in the command phase, and actually it can charge you as well after. You don't really understand what's possible here with these units and how it can actually start kicking off with rapid fire. You already have Ludas that have rapid fire. You can give tank busters rapid fire. And then we don't know the points cost for this, but you can duplicate this on multiple units, and that's the other compelling part. And then the big shot gumbo, whatever, gob shot thunderbus, not very that interesting, compelling. We have so much going on already that you're not going to go into one of these gimmicky things, right? So very friendly synergy. Obviously all infantry exclusive, and it's really all about that damage. So I think this is very popular for very obvious reasons, and nothing wrong with you tapping into this, but know that this is also purge, literally. That's its disposition as well. So that's why it's obvious. It's so obvious. Then we move on to Def Rolla, right? This is the one that everybody's like, well, nah. And I get it, really, right? I mean, not that compelling, to be honest, but we're going to break it down for what it is. One thing I do want to point out is the other wagon style detachment doesn't have the wagon style keyword as of yet, but this one's already hedging against that, saying that if it has another wagon tag, you can't take it. So we're just assuming that that detachment is already going to exclude this detachment. So we can't synergize the two Blitz Brigade and Def Rolla. Okay.
Right. It's implied.
Yeah, it's implied. So this is very obvious. You are giving it to battle wagons, kill rigs, hunter rigs, and hunter rigs, yeah. And we already talked about multiplying of the same unit, so that might actually hinder this as well if that's real, unless these kind of detachments have some kind of additional wording that excludes that penalty, right? That makes you free of having to take that. Otherwise, you get into what it is. You can reroll charges, and then you get auto advance 6, which I really like for my wagon kill rigs exclusive. Use me. You guys know I'm a kill rig fan for the most part, but auto 16 means I don't torrent like my word tower, which is always what I actually want to do. Yeah, another one here is what I really do like about it is the enhancement for the disembarking ramps for +1 charge. If this is cheap enough, it's very obvious to duplicate. Okay, so then this is really obvious to go with your the hunt, for example, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna put the hunt, give these guys +1. Now, some people will say, and you know who I'm talking about, you crazy gits, who take multiple battle wagons with their bully boys, right? Yeah. Ooh, okay. You can even you can put 3 units of breaker boys with 3 war bosses inside of a battle wagon. All of that, and then missile out of it on the go turn, right? Now getting out of a battle wagon with 20 boys, okay, not that easy, right? But the point is that's where this detachment might have some interest in it. And then these units can run forward and not necessarily get in your way. They got the auto advance 6 because they can get their own charges on, start playing the standing on the objectives, because you at least have to stand on one objective even if you're purging with your bully boys. And I think Def Rolla is the only one that's priority assets, which is like of all the detachments. We'll look at it again, but if somehow reason the meta changes, then maybe you don't want to play purge, then this might be the only reason you would play bully boys with that if you're going for priority assets. I don't know how you could build that into your list, but we haven't seen the points yet, right? We haven't seen where everybody's at. So yeah, the enhancement would be cool to go with your hunter rigs. Units get out of it, get +1 to charge battle wagons, +1 to charge, give it to all your breaker boys, give it to your mega knobs, give it to your boys with war boss, your knobs. There's so much cool stuff. We don't know how bully boys, if they make it more inclusive yet, but that'll be cool. And then we have targeting gizmo. If a big mech is embarked and then you get ignore cover, okay, that leads to my next point, docket trap, right? Is this actually something you want to invest in? Like from what you've seen, would you consider I invest in making mobile wagons even with these stratagems?
I mean, you already have ignores cover access with more DACA, which looks more appealing to me. And on top of that,
yeah, did I even yell at all these? I don't think I even yelled at all the. I'm sorry, dude. I went right over the more DACA.
You got excited.
Oh my god!
Again, taken over by.
I got taken over by WAAAGH. Long uncontrolled burst, right? Infantry ignores cover, so it's not your wagon. Super shells, we get additional AP, but you have to be within 9. Right? And that's the same for your rapid fire I want to mention. Cool, it sounds cool. Rapid fire with tank busters. How often are you actually getting close? And how many times have I shot at you or other people's hulled units with my tank busters and I'm never getting within 9? Right? Very rare. I know because I know how many times I use my tank buster bomb, my squid bombs. Right? So it's not all the time I get within 9. So even the AP, the rapid fire, all of this, thanks for bringing that up for me to go back to this. Sorry, guys. I know it's all over, but you're following. those restrictions mean is why it's a little less interesting to think about those with tank busters, even though tank busters are awesome. So if they're cheap enough, then I'll go back to it. But right now, it's like in real time with the shock attack gun and like, right, I'm not really always trying to get close. And then call that DACA is when they shoot your infantry unit. Your infantry unit can shoot back, but it's the same as snap shooting, which is what Overwatch is only on 6s. So, yeah, that one's cool too. But you typically your org units aren't really that much surviving. If it is, it might be a flash gate unit, and that could be cool because you could still get sustained, and then you could hypothetically pop the ammo run as of current wording, so you can shoot back at people if it was like very circumstantial. But like you said, as we go back to Def Rolla, you know, you have units that are styles that you can actually synergize better, like we're going to go to on the next chart right after this, with Dread Mob, right? So, you know, you can make way better synergy on that and the more DACA than this DACA trap, right? If you look at broadside, you get additional firing deck. The wagon isn't good at shooting, and it excludes your firing deck, which is the interesting part of your wagon. Now, mind you, I'm one of the only people you've ever seen on ever actually promote using a DACA wagon last edition where you take the RKs off, right? But in this case, for this specific one, I don't consider you doing that. It's just not enough synergy with whatever your primary detachment would be to benefit, which looks so far like you're going to be mostly supporting purge detachments, right? So it's like, well, why would I want to bring points for DACA in this, right? It's just, yeah, I don't want to spend this. I don't want to bring units that are going to try to take assets away from what I'm really trying to do. So impending crunch is probably the most interesting one here, where you can give battle shock to everybody within range. That's really good to help your bully boys, for example. Yeah, right. So then in that case, that's cool. And then the wagon, it gets cleave. Wagons don't need cleave. It's not that interesting. So overall, this detachment lacks some synergy. You know, there's a little bit to say that I noticed there's some crazy gits that run Green Tide, and they've run a couple battle wagons in that case. You might see some of that come out, but they're not going to be looking to invest a bunch of firing with it, right? It's all about it's auto advancing, it's additional charge buff, it's possible battle shock. And that's really what the most interesting part, and just being a big transport that can hold stuff. So a lot left to see. So now we go back to the big meat, right? The big meal main menu here. Okay, so now we're looking at Purge of the Foe. As for the points that David immediately brought up with what we're going to be trying to do as orc players with Purge the Foe.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind too what the most popular forces positions for other armies are going to be, because that's going to determine your missions.
And you're going to be saying, I'm Purge the Foe and you're Purge the Foe. Yeah. And that was one of the biggest complaints we used to hear as orc players is our elites, our favorite purging things, can't purge with the best of them, right? Like what was it, Michael Mann? Shout out to Michael Mann. He's someone who said that we're more like bully melee army, where we beat up armies that aren't that good at melee generally. And if we're too good at melee, it can kind of overwhelm us. We look to more score in that situation than just kill, which orcs were really struggling with at the end of last edition. So if you're going to go into one of these purge detachments, know that you're likely going to face the force disposition of purge as well going into the new edition, is what David brought up right away.
Well,
right?
Especially in the beginning, as everyone's trying to figure out how to score in these games. They're probably going to keep it simple in the beginning before really expanding into these 2DP, 1DP combos.
Yeah, and I'm not saying don't do it. Mind you, we don't know the points, don't know what adjustments are happening. You have to actually go out there and play. I'm just saying you're going to have to keep that directly in mind when you're building out these lists. When you go from these 2DP to the 1DP, they're going to be supporting these. So speaking of bully boys, right away, I already talked about more DACA. Obvious for you're going to be bringing bully boy infantry that wants to run up and actually shoot. Your Breaker Boys don't have good guns. Your Knobs don't really have good guns. Your Mega Knobs typically don't have that good of guns. That would be war gear. I don't know how interesting that would be for them. So then you go, well, what if I would Def Rolla, right? Then you're disembarking from wagons. You're safe staging. That might be more of the asset that you go into there as well. And then for Tactical Brigade, another additional support for doing actions, as in I need my secondaries done. Now, you can play Def Rollas, and possibly your transports and little chaff units can still do your secondary objectives. So it's not like you have to pick Tactical Brigade in order to do the secondary objectives, right? We've seen orcs already know how to do actions with our leftover units. It's just once we see the points, what will actually help bully boys in that case, right? So I want to see a big mega armor, but that's just me, just saying. Then we have the Hunt. The Hunt, right away, I was looking at Roland Death. as the more interesting one I'd want to take with this one, because I like getting that support for my wagons. But there is something to be said for some gits who want to bring a little bit of fire support alongside their big hunt to keep the enemy true, right? To keep the enemy respectful. It's just, is it enough respectful DACA without taking too much assets from the core of your hunt list? Because are you playing more DACA so you can shoot some pistols? Right? It's because it's exclusive to infantry, and we have to see what the cost of pigs are. And do you want to play for tank busters without much support? Right? And okay, maybe I'll pick Def Roller, and then I will pick, a mech and then tank busters and firing deck because I have other kill rigs. Okay, maybe you will, because you didn't have to duplicate so much of the same unit over and over. Right?
Yeah, that'd be the main appeal.
Exactly.
You don't have to invest so much into shooting.
Exactly. So we have to see, right, what's happening here. Once we see, do we get a penalty or do we not? How much points can I actually choose to invest into that before it's contradictory to myself, or vice versa? So that's cool. But yeah, the big hunt is interesting for Def Rolla. Def Rolla is good for bully boys. Tactical Brigade's very obvious, like I said, if you're bringing some boys to do skirmishes, and then they can fall back and then kind of try to pick themselves up or re-back in to do an action while your secondary wall runs in. So there could be cool synergy there as well, where you declare your first wall with all your boy mobs, and then you come in with your actual main punching big meat target as your second wall. And then the leftover guys still do actions. So that could be a sleeper pick as well, because people always say they like multiple war boss units jumping out of wagons with the boys unit. It just gets really hard for trading, right?
Yeah.
Because then people can bait you into forcing you to do stuff because they know you're purging. So that's a whole different topic. Then we have the Dread Mob. So Dread Mob's one I'm obviously very hyped for, because I'm a big Dread Mob fan. I've played Dread Mob a lot last edition. I'm not super excited to keep playing it right now because there's so much other stuff to do, but I'm very excited for what it brings, because it is one of the only ways we can bring some somewhat reliable DACA. That being said, we did take a big hit for being extra hazard, extra, right? It's on 1, 2s and now 3s also. If your weapon's already hazardous, if you press that button, it can hurt, but it's less detrimental to infantry, right? Because infantry, it's per the 1, 2, or 3 you roll, you take 1 wound. If it's a vehicle, then it's 3.
Yeah, we saw in the bat rep with Adrian, his Morkanot killed himself.
Literally, right? So now that being said, very obvious, more DACA goes with it, because most people are going to be investing more in infantry than not. There is conversation of, the mech gun with a leader with the shock attack gun that now counts as infantry because that's the infantry keyword. So those mech guns take hazardous as infantry instead of vehicles, and then they only take 1 per. That makes them really interesting for long range. Of course, there's a lot of really cool combos I liked for multi-stacking on my Dread Mob list with my units, and now we can't do it as much on the same phase for shooting, like big shells, big hits, and re-roll the hits. But this detachment is really fun for right now before we get our codex, and we very much complements the big mech DACA rig. So if you're getting multiple of the DACA rigs, you can use some kind of random orc model to kit bash your own mech boy, and then the mech boy runs around poking them. Excellent firing long-range firepower for your vehicles if you don't have those mass amounts of infantry to supplement your list right away, right? Because most people don't have 30 looters around, 3 tank buster squads, and then also we have the penalties that are possibly on hand. So you can't bring the good old-fashioned 3 tank busters, 3 flash gets, 3 looters like we've seen in the past, or 3 mech guns. Like I've shown those archetypes before in our old Dread Mob list, right?
Well, there could be attacks on that 3rd unit too.
That's why. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to be that obvious, so it might give us incentive to run into more walkers, but the walkers will still need a buff for that to be so appealing. In my opinion, Roll and Def doesn't go with Dread Mob at all, so just not really that interesting. And then Tactical Brigade, again, you have so many grots because battle line that it's not that appealing, in my opinion, from my experience. So really, Dread Mob and more DACA is like perfect synergy and very obvious in that way. So I'm really much supporting anybody who wants to go out and try it. If you get the new Orc kit and you want to support some mechs and you're playing a smaller game, maybe just run Dread Mob and help your guys run around. Put mechs in your boys unit to give them to press the button keyword. Get a Gaz. Gaz runs around pressing the button with alongside them boys, and you can use more DACA. So yeah, and there's more even to unpack for more. Is anything else you want to say about the Purge before we go into it? the next one.
One other thing too is even though there's going to be a tax on these third units for most armies, let's assume GW is going to attack the units that have been bullies in this edition, right? Like everyone says, the Defiler. That's what they pointed out in the article.
No, they won't. They'll definitely forget about Necrons.
But for Space Marines and maybe even Necrons, they usually have enough options where they can bring another unit that fills that same role, not as efficient, but just slightly half a tier down.
And I would say the one thing Orks don't have when we were talking about Tactical Brigade, for example, is we don't have multiple different flying infantry. We have just the Storm Boys.
Yeah.
Right. So there is that to be considered as well. So we'll see, right? We'll see. But those are all really good points. Then we can go to reconnaissance, because I think reconnaissance is one of the most slept on ones. And of course, for all the super chats and gifted memberships, we'll go to that at the end. And thank you very much for that big support. And thanks for the love for all the guys who are live right now, like 18 kilocans, baby. Which I'm at the Dread Mob. Yeah, 18 months or 6 months. Whoa. Thank you. And so we're going to get to, don't worry, you guys, members and everything. If you got a membership chat, put a W in chat for those gets as well. And I'll get to what you guys are saying as well, talking about that orc shooting. But reconnaissance, right, as we look at reconnaissance. So reconnaissance, just to try to simplify, some of this is going to sound samey, but we're figuring it out as we go. But reconnaissance is very much about playing just mass MSU armies. If you want to know what I mean, look at the Mork Perry archetype when I showed you back on the before, where it was like, bring a bunch of boys and bikers, minimum size, Coptas, what were the different versions of other infantry? Like, what was the other ones? I forgot what the other infantry were. But it was like the most redundant, ridiculous commandos. It was like 30 commandos. Yeah. Break them apart. Then a bunch of storm boys, break them apart. If you're going to bring something like that in your reconnaissance, you're still going to have to actually kill stuff as a part of some of those missions. But you are mostly going to be standing in corners of the battlefield and sometimes doing actions and or just holding one of your own natural expansion objective. Right. So that's kind of how this reconnaissance works. The thing here is that both of these detachments that are being shown as reconnaissance are 2 detachment point costs. And these both detachments are notoriously known for not doing damage, really. Yeah. Which is the issue here, right? Because then I look at my other 1 DP detachment costs and I mean units, and I'm like, well, I can't do Blitz Brigade with Roll and Death based off inference. Tactical Brigade is going to maybe help me do the actions more so, but what happens when it comes to killing time? It doesn't help me at all. Right. So then I look at more DACA and I'm like, well, then I'm bringing, kind of firing support units within these transports that are going to help me shoot, and then I have to fight on the wall and get out and hold objectives a little bit in the mid game, once in a while, late game, make a big push. Right. So really, it looks like Blitz Brigade would only want to go with more DACA from what I'm looking at least personally. And it's still not even that interesting. Right. So if you're playing Blitz Brigade, I feel like you're playing it to play reconnaissance. Like you figured it out for that. Right. So kind of a miss here. I don't know why I said hit. It's kind of a miss as a detachment for me as a whole. And I think it turned off most people from playing it.
Yeah, and I think you're going to find yourself a lot of times out of position with Blitz Brigade.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be in the staging areas because with reconnaissance, you're more playing the corners and these triangulations.
Yeah, and Blitz, Blitz Brigade units want to be near each other generally, again, on transports or whatever, and pushing on a big push on a wall turn. Orc units kind of want to be around each other, gang up on people. That doesn't go with Blitz Brigade. So I think it's just a miss, personally. Yeah. So you can kind of throw it away, in my opinion, until we see more. But I think that's one to throw away if I have to put like DF ranking detachments right away. It's that one. Until we get Codex, which is he's fine. Nobody cares. Then we go to the Speed Wall, right? Another one where initially was like, wow, that's a miss because this dude 2 DP. I wanted it to be Cult of Speed. Speed Wall is 1 DP. Boom, right? I was like, whoa, right? I was like, this is, I was ready to go. I didn't even say words right there. So you could tell I'm serious. But the Speed Wall is 2 DP because it actually plays reconnaissance quite well. Yet we haven't seen like buggies cost, right? This could be sick if you're like, all right, well, you're getting penalized for all your units. I got 4 different kind of buggies that all don't make sense if you say them real fast, right? Like it's like, okay, cool. I'm not taking the penalties. I can bring more buggies. I can bring bikers. I can bring WAAAGH. I can bring Def Coptas, and then I can bring more DACA and bring some kind of infantry support, right? So there is that. One of my and this kind of applies to Cult of Speed a little bit too. I had actually made some really fun and somewhat competitive. I would say they didn't make it to top tables, but I was going at least 3-2, 2-1. It was fine. I have a good game ratios most of the time with a lot of like tank buster kind of support, Zodgrot support, alongside my Cult of Speed or Speedwall units. And that actually did play out, right? So where the support from the DACA actually helped me. There's those hard targets, and then everything else was just killing the skirmishes with my faster units and still scoring a lot of points to offset any difference they had in killing potential. So more DACA does seem like it would be interesting for Speedwall support if the points are right, because there is some interesting like shooting support from transports that's in Speedwall that they have, right?
A lot of these units you're mentioning in the Speedwall also have that odd toughness, those extra odd wounds, but there's a chance they could survive, especially if we're accepting that Purge the Foe is going to be a common force disposition for other armies, right? So you could negate that one turn of them scoring points because they didn't kill more, or they didn't even kill one, but you're still scoring your points at the same time.
Typically you can, but early game, yes, right? Because like one buggy, I've seen one buggy not get killed by all these skirmish units because they're typically strength 5, maybe strength 6 on off chance. And they're like, oops, I just didn't put just enough wounds into you and your buggy's still alive for some reason. So it's really not that outrageous. And then I was looking at the shooting, right? For this one, this is the one that gives attack characteristics to your Speed Freak units and truck units. So when I went over the speed wall, which you can go look at that video, it still applies here, that there actually is a lot of fire support there from trucks. So it actually does make sense to put firing support units in these trucks alongside your speed wall units, kind of play the reconnaissance mission and utilize your more to synergize in killing these units. Right now, how it actually works in your foreskin position is going to actually dictate how this actually functions, because you can't say I don't think you can say your truck is speed wall and then the infantry inside is more DACA, or can you? Right? So we don't know. We're just assuming you can, right, when I'm putting this together. So I think that's actually a little bit of a sleeper in that sense, but still not sure about it. But moving 24 is easy to get into table edges and run around. But that being said, a lot of these reconnaissance missions require actions. So then Tactical Brigade might actually be great for that, but it's not helping you kill anything. And then Def Rolling doesn't necessarily make sense to me, unless there's some kind of hidden synergy between the trucks and the wagons that I'm not seeing, but I don't see that. Right. Is there anything you want to add for recons on here?
I think we covered it.
Yeah. I think infiltration, but you put commandos. It's kind of how we play our Cult of Speed already, and the speed wall would just be more trucks. I have a list already that I've shown in the past of that, so you could check that out as well, where it's trucks and buggies, blah, blah, blah. We talked about Rolling Def, I think, overall already enough, but it is the only priority assets. If you want to get an idea of what priority assets is, it's taking primary objectives, generally doing an action on them, or having to kill someone on them, from what I remember. Like if you look at if I face this other army, what mission do I have, blah, blah, blah. It changes a lot, so trust me. I'm just trying to summarize it for simplicity on you guys. So if that sounds interesting, of each time you're trying to do different actions, kill people, take objectives, it does seem like some dynamic gameplay, but it also seems like we're really hemmed up here because that Rolling Def is the only option for it. And it's also like action heavy when you don't necessarily know you're going to have to be doing actions all the time. I don't know how to describe it, but
you're still going to have to
kill people,
do some actions on the secondaries.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, that was the other thing. Yep. You'll run out of stuff to do it with and killing stuff. Yeah. So then you go to disruption. So disruption is another one where people were kind of excited about it. It's kind of like sneaky. It's still infiltrating units that can jump around the battlefield, do stuff in people's backfield. What's interesting about it is you can do these actions sometimes on objectives that you don't even control, and then later come back and kill the unit that's on it. So there is a little bit maybe of hidden potential here where some really smart git picks a Purge the Foe type detachment, but then picks Tactical Brigade and then chooses disruption because they figured out, okay, everybody's playing Purge the Foe. I can figure this out. From what we understand, right, there's that Goonhammer article and such, and from what we can know, Disruption is trying to do, where you need a lot of little units to do actions. Typically, you don't want that if you're going into a purge the foe target, right? Because they're like, oh, cool, thanks for the stupid little stuff on objectives I can kill. I was already trying to hold one and kill you, so thanks. So it's on our heads, at the top of our heads. We don't think it's awesome, but it could end up being one of those things that, well, theory and practical aren't the same thing, and somebody figured out that weird disposition. But it is a thing. And what did you say?
I was gonna say it could also just be a bait. So while you're turning those terrain features into your disruptions,
oh yeah,
then that's gonna force the enemy to come out if they do have purge the foe, right? Because they're trying to score their points, and then you come in with your counter.
You come in with double bully boy walls.
Yeah,
you're like, well, boom, right? You hit them twice, because once the unit is like trapped, for example, that doesn't go away. That terrain piece is just marked now.
Yeah.
So anytime you get in a fight in there, you're going to be scoring on it and killing people on it and possibly taking it. So there is more play there than is kind of being alluded to right off the top, right? So I think that might be for later to development, not like the first weeks, but there might be something people start to figure out when they start getting used to these missions. I think Cunning Gets already should look that way, because most people are going to be playing Purge. Right. So like David said, if you can get them to come out, you can have Commando do it here, Commando do it here, a Storm Boy do it here, right, on a different terrain piece. You trap them, and then enemy's like, cool, thanks for those units, and they try to pick them up. You're like, thanks, not while you bam, right, run into them with your boys, some knobs, whatever, maybe a gas, and then they're like, oh, I gotta kill gas now, and then you're like, no, here comes another one, bam, you hit them again, and then you offset their purge ability, because you're actually purging them, but you're scoring for killing them and for being on objectives, and they're not scoring, and you're not really trying to outscore them. You're just trying to at least tie them so they don't get more. It's like, oops, right? Because if you also have to purge, then you have to do more than them, and that's like a whole addition. No, I just have to tie you, bro, and then I still get all my points and you get none, or you get just minimum, right? Because you get like 2 still for killing stuff or something. So this is all theory. You have to long enough about that, but I think it's a little slept on to choose Disruption with Tactical Brigade alongside one of your Purge or your favorite take and hold, like a Free Buddha, maybe even a Green Tide somehow. I don't know, but usually Green Tide wants to take and hold already. But that's jumping ahead. So then we go to Cult of Speed, one of my favorite detachments. Been telling you guys about it for literally a year. People were like, I just don't have the models, and I was like, totally with you, right? I totally get it. But now, the GW is going to come out with more biker boxes. You might be able to find some secondhand. There might be more incentive for you to use buggies now. So let's take a look at Cult of Speed. Now, would we want to do Disruption with Cult of Speed? From what I've seen, you can, because you have a lot of targets, but your targets all want to constantly be advancing, and it's not, you can't advance and do any of these actions that Disruption might ask you to do. And I've struggled to kill stuff. So if I'm like, well, then I pick Tactical and Cult of Speed because I need to do actions. Well, then can I really kill stuff? Like, right? I don't know. Right? That's tough. So then it's like, well, like I said earlier, maybe I'm just doing more DACA, because that's what I've liked to do in the past, where I bring a little bit of more DACA support alongside of my Cult of Speed to help kind of push people off objectives. When I really then when they try to be like, well, here's a big hole right here. They're like, okay, thing busters jump out. And then I might actually have the rapid fire then. But, because but, other than that, it's like, how is this mission actually going to play out is what's interesting for me, because I don't know all the disruptions, right? But I do know generally it's like, go over here, do something over here, and maybe kill someone to disrupt what they're trying to do. Go do it to the terrain piece, do it on an objective, whatever. So I don't know how conducive that's going to be, even though I'm a huge fan of Cult of Speed. That's why I actually gave Speedwall a little bit of love, even though I've been a huge hater of Speedwall for the most part, because that's what this video is really about, is how are we actually going to play the mission. Because Orks have never really been an army that's all about, I'm just tabling you every time. Orks have always been like, I'm an attrition army. I'll duke it out with you and win on points, even if all my bodies are gone. Right? So we're actually playing a point mission style faction here, and it does have a combined arms factor to it. So that's what we're trying to unpack and figure out for the most part. So I think that's what's fun about this whole setup so far. And then we go into one of the, again, common missions.
Yeah, take and hold. Everyone's familiar with this one if you played any of the previous editions. Just hold objectives.
Literally.
Orks love to do that.
Orks literally love to run forward and kill and stand on objectives.
With lots of OC.
It was interesting though that Warhorde was taking hold, right? A little bit.
Yeah, it was. I'd see it more maybe as a purge.
Everybody said that I was seeing online or that I was talking to. They're like, if Warhorde isn't purge, I don't know what is. All right. And I'm like, I'm feeling you on that. I don't know either. And here we are. We're taking hold. Now, is that actually good for us? You get like
maybe it would have been too strong. I don't know.
Maybe it would have been too strong. Like, Orks do like to take and hold, but Warhorde's not like I want to just stand there. Warhorde's generally like I want to go run up and break your back or break your army apart, like getting in these skirmishes, killing your scoring units. You come out to hit me and then I run you over. It's not really about I stand here and hold this.
Right.
So, and you can't synergize anything else with that with Warhorde. So, though I think this is going to be really good for ease of play, as in like obvious rules, Warhorde's direct, don't need it, but you can use a bunch of different kind of units you got that are there. That's cool.
Maybe that was the intention. Warhorde being the most popular detachment
and the most simple,
taking whole simple. Scoring secondary or primaries.
And at least it's in the case that you don't have to force yourself to run out and purge someone. So it might be better for us because it might be, well, I'm trying to hold this and the enemy starts kind of overstepping, pushing you off objectives and taking the bait on all your little stupid chaff units. And then you're like, cool, crash into you. And even though I'm losing the purge attrition fight here, I'm winning the take and hold fight. Because how many times have we played a Warhorde where I'm dying, but I've taken the objective and you're still alive, but you're really just trying to kill me fast enough so you can retake the objective. So it really might be better that Warhorde is actually taking a hold.
Yeah, now that we talk about it, it makes more sense. It's more beginner friendly because if it was purge, you could easily miscalculate, mistrade, and then you lose the game.
Yeah.
At least if you're dying with Warhorde and taking hold, you could still have a chance to win the game or at least be in it to be entertaining enough to encourage players to keep playing.
Yeah, because the timing of the WAAAGH, if you were a purge, would just ruin you. Everybody would be like, I have to purge, I'm so scared. I'm dying, right? And it was like, okay. So you might be able to play more styles of gameplay here just because it's taking hold. So it does open up like unit selection to that degree. I think Green Tide, I've been saying it for the last 2 videos, even before we have more information. Green Tide is looking strong, even though the only thing holding us back is that 9-inch coherency. Right?
Yeah.
Now, there is a little bit of talk of like, well, according to the rules currently, the boys unit says 2 leaders, dog. So I can take 2 leaders as long as one's a war boss, and then I can take a support. And I'm like, cool, you're just making your mob bigger. I mean, like, okay, I don't know if the heals were accepted. I don't know if GW is going to adjust that, but your mob's getting gigantic at that point. That being said, if you deploy some of this stuff out, you see it on TTS, you can put 80 boys on the field kind of hidden in interesting spots. Now you are somewhat in the front, almost on the deployment line, which if armies are fast, they can punish you for that. But that's the way of the Green Tide anyways. You're like, oh yeah, I dare you. Now I'm gonna just flood you and take and hold. Right? Very straightforward. And then it's, well, what I spoke about earlier. Well, now if you did that, I pick more DACA. And then you've ran at me. I shoot all my chip damage at you at the unit, the second line unit you have, crash into your front line of screens or chaff or units that ran to get in the way of me. I've chipped some of your lower back units, or I've actually brought some support fire that I've destroyed one of your hull units because I have more DACA.
Yeah, and that gives something that Green Tide never had, that DACA, right?
No, yeah. And more clock management. But it's still a thing. And I think it's fun as heck, right? I love that. And they might actually make Tide less same 120 boys, 100 boys, 120 boys, 100 boys. It might be able to bring some synergistic kind of other detachments like Tactical Brigade, where you bring Storm Boys and then they get Tactical Brigade, maybe kind of buffs as well, your boy units do, or your Tactical Brigade boys, Storm Boys run out there and do all your actions for you. So you can kind of move towards the middle, that halfway point, without overcommitting your whole mobs to die right away as you get closer to that, and make units that are like to be bait or to act as nets or deep strike deterrents, ingress deterrents, right? Because one thing we hate is we're seeing more first turn ingress. Well, if your Tide can be first turn ingressed on, that's annoying. So if you can get infiltration / fast units, well, then maybe Tactical Brigade's actually appealing when it comes to the practicality of board control. Right? So more DACA is just obvious fun. Boom. We're all infantry. I want to throw my DACA at you. No shit. Right? Like no shit. Right? I get it. But for mission practicality, there might be something interesting on Tactical Brigade to actually make sure you score your games, like score all your points while you're just standing your secondary points, and you have board control. Right. Because whenever I took Storm Boys, it was really like, okay, advancing Storm Boys. All right, now your ingress is all the way back there. You can't interact with my Tide. Cool. Okay. Oh, my scouts run over there. Can't interact with my Tide right now. So maybe Tactical Brigade's actually the play for practical mission play. And then there's Roland Def. Like I've said before, there might be some crazy gets that are going to put the Green Tide units in battle wagons and then move forward. Boom. Right? And then last but certainly not least, in my opinion, then I'll go over all the comments, the chats. A lot of you guys are still saying good comments. If I missed anything, make sure you mention it too. Now, freebooters. Freebooters is kind of up in the air. No one's really talked about it, right? No one's really thinking about it. They're like, why does it want to take and hold? Ugh. Right. Well, I take the whole entire terrain piece that I'm declaring now, and it's all my sustain for both activations, shooting and fighting combined. I can give myself wall to go and push on those objectives that are now being declared as entire terrain pieces when people want to tow in, for example. I can auto advance 6 with these units as well, with the freebooters, right? Which is also an interesting part of it. And what if I want to play freebooters with more DACA, where now my units already might have some sustain, so they don't need the freebooters like my flash gets, and then they get up and get into a fight as well, and that's a good combo too. Tactical Brigade with your freebooters,
to get access to disruption,
and then your freebooters actually like, well, I disrupted that terrain piece, but it's also my objective for the freebooter thing, for the looted objective. So I set it up with my Storm Boy, and then you stood on it, and then I beat your ass because I re-roll wounds on the objective, and I get sustain, and I can declare a wall on you if I'm still standing there the next turn and keep beating your ass, right? Like it's I don't know, like, you know, it could be cool. You could bring Ludas, and then you give them blast, right? Like where you press the blast keyword, and they're on the terrain piece, and you're like, okay, well now you're standing objective, you're shooting downfield onto that open ass terrain. Right, because that was the issue, is the looters couldn't get anything to shoot at sometimes if they were using heavy, if they were slow, whatever it is. Well, now they got 48-inch guns. If they're still cheap, they're always sitting on 6s. If they're lopped up on a terrain piece they haven't shot, they can just wait. Right, and just be like, I'll just stand here until you get close. And if you get close enough to them, then I don't care, because that means you're not shooting whatever else is in front of you and you're getting punched. You can set that up. Then that sets up a combined arms kind of scenario at range as well. So there could be something kind of fun there and different. And then I don't, what am I missing? And then Roland Def. I don't see the Roland Def with my freebooters. I was even bringing Squigs, and you know, there was walkers that you could sometimes bring. Gaz was really fun to bring. Other fast biker, like war bikers with trikes were fun. WAAAGH was fun, and freebooter. So there's a lot of really good units that we were already enjoying that I think were a part of freebooter crew that people are not looking at. So freebooter might be a secret, you know, solid detachment, because now the objective you select isn't some little circular puck. It's entire terrain piece, and a terrain piece that you know your enemy wants to tow in on and such. And if someone's playing like take and hold, and maybe you did play disruption instead, but you're using freebooter crew, well, then you're crushing these units that are on objectives, and then you're still scoring your disruption, because you have to, maybe sometimes you do have to take that objective or kill someone on that terrain, but then you're turning off their primary for take and hold also. You know, you never know. And while but it could get out of hand too if they're, you know, a Green Tide, for example, and they run you over. It's just fun options that we can look at, because really that's what we should all be doing right now, right? People are stressing, people are poo-pooing, and some of it is very justified because this has been such a sloppy release. But this right here, this conversation, this force disposition, these synergies, these combinations you're going to be able to pull out is what's going to make things possibly interesting for you. If you want to think outside the box, you can get even more rewarded by picking, you know, these missions and then units to synergize with each other once we see the army composition rules. Or you can just play same old things you're familiar with and get stuck in and double down on what we're already good at, like Dread Bomb and Mordaka, like Green Tide and Tactical Brigade, like Bully Boys and Rolling Death, like the Hunt and Rolling Death. You know, Speed Wall with more DACA hypothetically, possibly. And then so if there's a lot that I think I'm gonna enjoy. So right now, good time right now at this mark. Super chats, comments, whatever you guys are saying right now. Make sure you guys get it in so I can see and I can reply. So I'm gonna go over what the ones we have now. Is there anything else we missed, David? So we have 10 WAAAGH Tactic gifted memberships from Flynn. Whoa! Thank you for the great war boss, Flynn, supporting the Great Wall as always, letting us to do what we do because it's good investment time and it helps the Great Wall keep its equipment up at Big Mac because guys I've had audio so issues before. So thank you very much to that, Flynn. And of course we'll have to be doing membership content and streams. He said 4 battle line mean WAAAGH and only 24 Warbikers max. Oh yeah, that's a good point you bring up too. Is WAAAGH being the warlord, and then in Cult of Speed, and then Warbikers get battle line, and then Storm Boys get battle line, and then your boys get battle line. I don't know what battle line does yet exactly, but you just made that up. That made me think of that also, just off the top of my head. It also makes me worry about Green Tide. So I really don't know how real to take this rumor I've been hearing, but it could happen. So thank you for that super chat you get. And yeah, that would mean they'd be limited. But I think I don't even have 24 Warbikers. I think I'm like 18 or something. Big Mac as mech support keyword would be awesome, I think, in my opinion. Now, is it a big hope and dream? Yeah, but I'm taking it. Then we got Suicide Gambit for 10 WAAAGH Tactic membership. Whoa! Thank you for the great support you get. That really means a lot. It's very generous of you. With the Suicide Gambit, you've been here for a long time. And yeah, hopefully this was some value to you as well. And what we went over kind of help simplify some of this and also expand your thoughts at the same time. And maybe give you some stuff to look forward to if you're collecting your army, if you're expanding your army, or just picking what part of your collection you're going to play, right? The easier missions are Purge and Take and Hold for the most part. And thank you for those memberships gets. It means a lot. And of course, the Bag Dog for 10 WAAAGH Tactic members. Whoa, the Bad Dog. He didn't leave a comment here, I don't think, or anything. But thank you very much for the generous support. As always, you get me and this guy are going to have to get stuck in here real soon. He's been challenging me, and he's not far enough to avoid it. Whoa! Just kidding. And then, like I said, the 18 kilocans, thank you get. And some guys were saying, make sure I didn't miss any other ones. Here's my boy Aaron. What's up? More DACA and Dreadmob with max burners and looters. With the, look at my boy, 30, flexing that big old 30 membership, 30-month membership. Whoa, been here since the beginning of the Great Wall, as always. He's saying right here he wants to give his burners an additional AP. My boy here in the Discord, I call him the burner boy because he has been loving them burner boys the entire last edition, no matter what. So I expected nothing less from this. And yeah, you're right. It does go with Dreadmob. The one thing Dreadmob doesn't have is burners. So it definitely needed your burner support from the more DACA. And like you said, really it's armed Dreadmob is mostly, as even the name says Dreadmob, which is the irksome part, the annoying part. We're going to have a lot of infantry on the Dreadmobs. That being said, I should have mentioned this too. There is synergy. Thanks for this. There is synergy between the walkers, right? They're towering. You can give them +1 to hit. From what we understand, there's a chance that you can give them ignore cover from Dreadmob. So there's a chance that your guys are hitting on 4s quite often. You can do reroll hits. So Morkanauts might be interesting, but they're taking crazy hazards rolls. So Gorkanauts have been somewhat more interesting. Like David said earlier, 1 AP is a bit more interesting now than it used to be. And they have transport capacity, right? So instead of playing for transports, you can move those guys, stage them up. The guys get out, take those 3 inches plus their advance, and then they shoot. So that could be awesome as well. You don't get heavy if you get out of a transport, though, so keep that in mind. But thank you for that as well. And then Friendly Neighborhood Canuck. Be mindful of tripling up in 11th edition. Warcom had an article by Richard Stiegler about tripling costs for additional points. Sad DACA. Right noises. Yeah, that's what we were talking about the whole video, and thank you for bringing that up in writing. That way we double make sure people notice that. Oh, sad DACA rig. Yeah, you're right, because I'm gonna have 3 DACA rigs. So you're right on that. You're right. He's into some DACA rig. You're right on that, dude. Because I actually got 3 DACA rigs. Now I'm like, oh, man. It punishing us for having too much good stuff. How dare you? But if the Big Mac Docker rig is low enough on point cost, might be worth it still. Might be so fun, especially because you get sustain, lethal, right? Reroll hits, +1 a hit, and you can possibly ignore cover. You can stack all these buffs at once. Yeah, and then there's also like the synergy you can do where you're taking enhancements for double pressing the button. But then there's other enhancements for like rapid fire. So it's like how we see the army composition layouts, really where we're going to see all these enhancements and buffs and go and how many of them and the redundancy of them. But there's a lot of really cool DACA support. So don't be disappointed about the DACA part right now, even though I know you were just talking about the DACA rig. Overall, Orks actually have quite a deep codex, so I think we can make it work with not bringing 3 of everything. I think we do a pretty good job of bringing 2 of everything anyways. I think we really do a really good job of that. I think, yeah, many of my videos in the past when I was explaining or evaluating detachments, if they weren't something super exclusive like Bully Boys, then 2 of something always felt good enough, right? Like I hardly ever did recommend 3 Breakable units, right? That's a hard skew. But 2 with War Bosses felt nice. 2 knob units with War Bosses felt nice for SWAT teams, for example. So I don't think Orks are going to have a bad time, right? SWAT teams, 2 flash kits, 2x5 knobs, boom. 2 breaker boys, right? 2 burner boys, boom. You start breaking it down. The SWAT teams, maybe battle wagons, right? Blitz wagons, whatever we used to call them, right? SWAT wagons, right? It'll get fun. I think we're one of those armies because we're so deep that we might actually take advantage of that kind of stuff. And another Midwest games. Whoa, if you're in the Midwest, we're gonna have to crump it out sometime, boy. But welcome to the Great One. I appreciate it. And anybody else that also got a gifted membership, make sure you put W's in chats, WAAAGHs in chat for the support, because that's what keeps us alive and going. We need that WAAAGH energy in order to keep the lights on out here, because we gotta be. So you got some rowdy boys out here, right? So yeah, and then let's see what other guys are saying for the comments. People were talking about WAAAGH, on the WAAAGH Snickrot, yeah, for cult of speed actions, Weird Boy to help them, Omega knobs with war gear. What if you get knobs and then their dev guns? What if their dev guns are super cheap and you can get knobs for super cheap with dev guns, and then you bring them in one of your armies? I don't know if that'd ever be good, but I just felt like saying that, just so you know. I don't care. Another stupid thing that might be fun is War Boy, right? If your War Boy can run, don't laugh. At least motherfuckers are laughing already, dude. You guys see that? The War Boy is because what if you want to cause battle shocks? Shout out to the members, right? That if you want to, get more of that, that can always be super fun. If you get battle shocks going off, -2 alongside your rolling death. So if you're playing to hunt and you have rolling death and you do battle shocks, so I'm not sleeping on the beast snaggers, right? Another one was here. If you're taking beast snaggers and your freebooters, rolling death could be good. Kill rigger too. Oh, there you go. That's another good one, right? I slept on it. See, this is why we did this, because even guys right back from the community are giving back and saying stuff. I've heard stuff from Discords for days. I've heard a couple YouTube videos from my boys like Michael Mann and Art of War. I listen to them, right? Like, but nobody's even mentioned this necessarily, right? And we just overlooked it in real time. So thank you. You get freebooters. Maybe you do want a battle wagon and maybe a kill rigs. Who knows? It's hard to navigate those gets on the field. They might get shot, but if they don't, that might be super fun synergy. Also, that works, making them get up the field, giving +1 of charges and stuff, right? Also, you can also auto advance 6 and get out, +1 to charge, auto advance 6, crump, get +1 strength from the kill rig. Yeah.
There's one crazy git that was saying he was going to run 3 1DP detachments.
Oh yeah, so dude, that came across my mind too. That is maybe a thing, but we have to see like what is the army criteria and restrictions and everything right there, right?
Well, another thing too I was thinking about is I've already been in that situation many times where I'm trying to fine-tune a list and I'm at that weird points left over with all these new point differences and point taxes and trying to line up how many points you're putting to your Purge the Foe detachment versus your priority assets detachment or whatever. Like, it's going to be you're going to be there for quite a while just to try to get that list perfectly at 2,000 points or 1995.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's going to help be more fun as well, because people were bored making armies.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot more involved in the list building.
Right
stage.
here, this fun comment I've seen too is I've been dominating games with bubble chuckas, ludas, different ludas. Just roll it. I think you might press the button. When you get the AP version, you're surprised how it punishes armies. It does when you get additional too. When you can actually pull it off. I think mech guns are definitely going to be way more interesting because they're so stupid slow that now you tow onto objective and you shoot off of it with 3 mech guns. It super supports the shock attack gun, for my opinion, because the range is so complementary in that way. It's a little bit tougher, and you're so far that enemies don't want to reach out and hit you, compared to when you're a bunch of tank busters standing right in front of them, and they're like, that's right there. I'll kill that truck. I'll kill these stupid 6 infantry dudes, and I'll kill that character real easily, and I'll charge them because they're right in my face. Compared to something like mech guns that stands in the back, and like I said, there's a good chance that you get around the 3 hazardous because you have infantry keyword a part of your unit if there's a character in there. Luda standing on objectives, having heavy, and then also plunging fire might be interesting. Flash hits could do it too, but they're so big that I don't see them standing on these little ass terrain pieces we've seen. That's just me. So yeah, I think a lot of stuff is really interesting so far that we've seen. Is there anything else we missed? I think we hit the hour mark. Overall, I think most of that stuff, you guys, if there's anybody else in here that has more stuff to say, of course, I think Gas is awesome. I think he's going to have a bunch of play. He's going to be super important. Combat shenanigans are going to be super important in this edition. Playing the fundamentals of combat is exactly what Orks are all about. Playing the mission, combat fundamentals for taking position on the board, and killing the enemy just enough so they can't win the game on points is exactly how Orks win. That's what this edition is really looking like, right? They have late game pushes. They have early game stretches. They have hold on to your cards and score later. That all benefits Orks to some degree in our economy, assets of economy gameplay. So if there's anything else, I think we hit everything. Yeah, I said the word boy. That's hilarious, right? Given the battle shocks. Yeah, I don't think I missed any of the chats. You guys let me know. As for Rewatch Gang, let me know if I missed anything. Be sure to let me know in the comments because I try to put this together best I could. Is there anything else you want to ask, David? Ask maybe observations you made or anything else you noticed that you want to put on these last disposition?
No, one thing I do want to say is just have fun in the beginning of this edition. Everyone's trying to figure it out still, especially with how complex these primary scoring is now. So just use the models that you love to use. Yeah.
That actually is the biggest point of rule because we're going to get a codex maybe in like 3 months. So really just have a good time. And there's always one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall because we'll knock your teeth out.